I got an idea.
Alright.
So, let's go back to number one. Number one, Thomas Jefferson is to the Declaration of Independence as Thomas Paine is to what again, Brady?
Common sense.
Okay.
Are you brave?
B, common sense. Okay? And what was common sense about? What was he saying?
Common sense.
It's common sense that they should do what?
Break away from England.
Yeah, break away from England and go to war with Great Britain, right? Go to war with England. Okay, number two. Why was the Battle of Saratoga the turning point in the Revolutionary War, Augie? Okay, good. Yeah, it's J, or on the computer it's D. Americans gained confidence that they could defeat Britain when France agreed to be an ally. So America's getting confidence. France decided to join the Americans and partner with them in the war, okay? We talked why would France want to do that? Why does France want to get revenge on Britain?
They just lost to them in the French and Indian War.
Very good.
So they wanted to help and get revenge.
The
I have
French,
a question.
yeah.
So the French helped the Americans win that war. What, did they even get anything out of it?
Well,
Yeah, peace.
they get revenge on Great Britain, and then they see their gain is Great Britain's loss, because Great Britain went in. If they were to win the war, that means that they have all that territory in the what is now the United States, right? The 13 colonies, all that territory goes to Great Britain if they win. So France is just trying to keep Britain from getting that territory. Make sense? They want Britain to not have as much power. So yeah, it was a big deal after Saratoga because France is a powerful country and they have lots of resources. They have a strong navy and they have lots of numbers that they can add to the Americans' army. Number three, the founding fathers, they were considered models of civic virtue because they did what, Cameron? What'd you get on three? C, they sacrificed family and their business interests to fight in the revolution. They pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. Right? That was on the GIM kit. But also, when we talked about George Washington, what did we talk about? What was the hard part about him leading?
He had to leave his family completely and go.
Very good. He left his family behind. When we talked about George Washington and Paul Revere, that's when we talked about this. We talked about how a lot of times the founding fathers, like George Washington and others, that sacrificed their country over their personal interests, their personal benefit. 4. Paul Revere, he rode to warn the militia in where that the British were coming.
Lexington.
Wait, raise your hand.
Raise your hand.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Bryson. Good, J, or on the computer it's D. D, Lexington. Paul Revere rode to Lexington to warn them that the British were coming. Okay? What was the British's plan at Lexington? What was the British plan at Lexington? Who remembers?
They were trying to, what's it called? Surprise attack them. I think.
Catch them off guard. What did the colonists have at Lexington?
Oh, they had all their guns, ammunition, and stuff there because they,
And then some
Yeah.
chick in hiding decides to shoot and gets like a lot of people.
Good. So they had been stocking up their weapons at Lexington, right? And the British found out about it, and they were going to try and surprise the colonists and catch them off guard. But Paul Revere gets word, and he runs and warns them ahead of time the British are coming, so that they had a heads up. And that was the first shots. What was the
First shots
shot heard around the world, right? Very good.
and it missed.
Okay, number 5. What was the result of the Battle of Yorktown during the Revolutionary War? What was important about the Battle of Yorktown, Christian?
D.
Very good, okay. It ended with the surrender of Cornwallis's troops and American independence was achieved. Who is Cornwallis, Christian?
Chicken.
No. Who is General Cornwallis?
You would
Well, you just kind of said it.
the general, the leader of
General,
the
okay.
British
There
troops.
you go. General of the British troops.
video yesterday.
But I mean, Christian wasn't wrong. He was a chicken for not going to
He wasn't a
surrender.
chicken, he was arrogant.
But he didn't go to surrender. He had his first person go and surrender
Oh,
instead
yeah.
of him.
He was sick.
He's chicken.
He was sick on the day of the
More
surrender.
like chicken. Just
Yeah,
like chicken.
probably. Okay, number 6. Which name completes the chart below? Okay, Thomas Jefferson is on the chart, and he believed in rural like countries, like the country part, of, like versus the city. He wanted it to be more country, and wanted a weak federal government. So he wanted the nation's government to be weak, and who to have more power? Thomas Jefferson. Who Thomas Jefferson believes should have more power, Braden?
The federal.
He wanted a weak federal government. What does that mean?
He wanted to have it just in a state, not the country.
Very good. He wanted the states to have more power than the countries.
Yeah.
I mean, than the state. He wanted states to have more power than the United States.
For some reason he became
But who opposed those beliefs? Who believed that the United States should be focused around cities and that the country should have more power? Yeah, Braden.
Pitt Cameron.
Cameron.
Yeah, Cameron, who is it? We always talk about him.
F.
Who is
On the
it?
computer,
Who is it?
A. Who is it? Alexander Hamilton. Okay, Alexander Hamilton believed in a strong federal government.
Bryson. Chill.
Yay, I got it.
Number 7.
Bryson, pull them all back up.
Okay, this is talking about America's advantages and disadvantages. So what was America's disadvantage, Noah? On number 7, what was their disadvantage?
Bryson.
It's D.
Why did I choose
Okay, so on number 7, they had a untrained militia. So their army was untrained, but they knew what really well.
wait, so I was just saying something. On the computer, it just
On the computer, it was a little different.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just said geography, so I just chose A, but I guess it was D.
No,
On the computer, the correct answer was A.
It was
so
A.
wait.
On the computer, the correct answer was A, geography.
Okay, then I got it right on the computer.
No.
I got the one wrong.
Well, it should have been D,
I
because
t-
it already said untrained.
Yeah,
but
Yeah, and I told you guys all before class, I said, hey, number 7, it's a little different on the computer. Be sure to read number 7 on the computer and answer number 7 on the computer.
Oh yeah, it said geography.
I
I
picked
think
the
you got it right.
I got it
So,
right.
which one did you pick, Bryson?
Answer
You
one
did
of them that
A,
says
the correct answer on the computer was A, geography.
Yeah.
And I think you picked
Yeah,
that
but
one.
you're still right.
Oh,
You're
so
still
then I
right.
would have made.
Yeah, you're
No, you got number 8 wrong.
Yeah.
That was number 7. That's the only one you got wrong. Was number
I am not proud of my grade on this test.
8. Okay, number
If I
8.
picked A for the, but if I picked E on the
Seven
computer,
seconds.
You got number 7 right on the
Oh.
test. When was the Declaration of Independence written?
I know this. I got it wrong.
Augie. G. Okay, we're on the computer. It's B. During the war. The Declaration of Independence was written during the war. It was during the war, okay? Because what's my order of events? What happens first? What's the first battle?
Lexington.
Lexington and Concord, right? First battle. Then we have a couple more battles, but then we have our Second Continental Congress, right? Where we get what written at the Second Continental
The
Congress?
Declaration.
Declaration of Independence, what year?
And
1859.
Huh?
What? The Declaration.
1770.
76.
1776. Okay, Declaration of Independence, Second Continental Congress, 1776. So we have Lexington and Concord, Second Continental Congress, and then the war doesn't end till what? What ends the war?
Yorktown.
Battle of Yorktown. What's the treaty that they signed?
Treaty of Paris, 1763.
That's
83.
Oh wait, 83.
83. There is a Treaty of Paris 1763. What did that one do?
That was the one for the proclamation. Right?
Proclamation line that ended what war?
17.
1763. What was the proclamation line?
French and
They
Indian
fighting over
War.
that territory.
Oh yeah.
Very good.
Where no person can pass west of the Appalachian Mountains.
Good. So there was two Treaty of Parises. The first was 1763, ended the French and Indian War. The second one was 783, and it ended the Revolutionary War.
So is Paris
there were
just like the
two?
rulers in this situation?
Yeah, Paris
They
was
all
just a big
ended.
city
I
that
thought Paris was in France.
it is.
No, really?
When they would go to France, some of the leaders would all travel to France to sign these treaties. That's why it's called the Treaty of Paris. Okay. So we got number 8. Number 9. The most important accomplishment of the Second Continental Congress was what? We kind of just talked about it.
The
Or
creation.
was it Noah?
Number
9.
C.
Good. Okay. The most important accomplishment of the Second Continental Congress was the creation of the Declaration of Independence. What else did we talk about that happened at the Second Continental Congress too?
Give me a second.
What else happened at the Second Continental Congress that we talked about in class? They need a leader.
They elected George Washington as the general.
Yep, George Washington becomes the commander-in-chief. Okay, number 10. Prior to the American Revolution, the British Parliament felt it was appropriate to tax the colonists to help pay for the expenses they had run up fighting a war. What war was it, Artie?
8. The French and Indian War.
Good, the British, they were in debt from the French and Indian War. America's going to be in debt too. Was America later on get in debt for what war?
American Revolution.
American Revolution. The Treaty of Paris, 1783, the United States gained which of the following? What did we get from the Treaty of Paris, Bryson? Number 11.
I don't give the answer.
Oh, I'm scared.
Okay. It's not B, what was it?
I think D.
Oh, D, thank you. Okay. Yeah, correct answer was D. We already talked about that a little bit. Treaty of Paris, it ended the war and gave America its independence from England.
What was 10 again?
10 was H.
Okay, good.
Number 12. Though the militia was forced to retreat, why was Bunker Hill still considered a victory for the Patriots, Christian?
It was J.
J, very good. Our own computer is D. Heavy British casualties showed that the militia could fight against a well-trained army, right? You watched the video on Bunker Hill, you saw how they had the high ground. They built that 6-foot wall around them at the top of the hill, and they were able to take out a lot of the British. The British had roughly how many casualties? About how many people died from the British?
Over 3,000.
Not quite.
No,
That's a
over
little-
1,000.
1,000. Good.
With
About
a lot
1,000.
of people that.
Like 7 captains.
Very good. Okay, and about how many Americans do we remember?
Like
15.
No, more than
300.
that. More than that.
500.
500.
Closer. It's 400. Okay, about 1,000 British die, about 400 Americans die. It's a victory, even though the Americans had to retreat. It's a victory because there were so many British casualties. They killed so many British. It was still considered a victory. What directly led to the Constitutional Convention of 1787? Augie.
E.
What'd you say?
B.
B?
Shays
Shays Rebellion, yep, B. Okay. What was Shays Rebellion,
When
JT?
farmers started fighting the Patriots because they were getting taxed on them.
Very good. Why were they getting taxed?
Because of the what's it called? The war, the French and Indian War.
Not the French and Indian War. Why did America have to tax its people? For what war?
Oh, that was for the American Revolution.
Very good. Okay, the American Revolution created some debt, and so they had to start taxing its people. And the farmers had a rebellion because they didn't want to pay those taxes. And that's going to lead to a discussion about who has power. Who has the power to tax? Does the state have the power to tax its citizens? Does the country have the power to tax its citizens? And the state, how come they couldn't even shut down Shays' Rebellion and they had a hard time? How come they get to have power? So we need to hold a convention, and what do we get from that convention?
The President of the United States.
No, it's the Constitution, right?
Oh.
Constitutional Convention.
Oh, okay. The President of the United
The British Parliament, number 14, British Parliament their response to the Boston Tea Party was to do what? What did they do to the colonists after the Boston Tea Party? Christian.
G. Pass down.
G. Good, they passed the Intolerable Acts. Okay, that's how they responded to the Boston Tea Party. Who dumped all the tea into the harbor?
Sons of Liberty.
Very good, Brendan. Sons of Liberty. Number 15. Demonstrations led by the Sons of Liberty helped to advance the principle of no taxation without representation. By what, Brendan? Number 15.
A. Convincing the British Parliament that the Stamp Act would not be obeyed.
Very good. Okay, 15 was A. Our key word in our question is the quote, no taxation without representation. Key word is taxation. Okay, so which of the following is a tax? So you just have to look at the answer choice and find which one are they talking about. Why would they be saying no taxation without representation? Which one is a tax?
Stamp
And the
Act.
correct answer is A, the Stamp Act, right? They were saying, explain it for me, Augie, what is no taxation without representation? What does that mean? What are they saying?
I don't know.
I got you.
Okay, JT.
Then they shouldn't be taxed unless there's a representation or a person who's representing them to tax them.
Unless they have a say.
Yeah.
Good, okay, very good. They're saying you can't tax us, we shouldn't be taxed unless we have a say, right? 16, John Paul Jones. He distinguished himself during the War for Independence by doing what? Who was John Paul Jones, Braden?
J. Commanding a victory at sea against the British Navy.
Good. John Paul Jones, he was a sailor, founder of the United States, what? Noah? John Paul Jones, founder of the United States, what? One of the founders of what?
Navy.
The U.S. Navy. Very good. Okay, and he led in some of the naval battles in the Revolutionary War. Okay, 17 talks about another person. Who was Lafayette, Christian?
Lafayette was C.
Very good. He commanded troops for the colonists against the British. So,
He's the guy that can rap fast too.
Yes.
Huh?
okay, he was
I have
from France.
It's fine.
I like how
There you
Cameron
go,
also
Austin.
got it.
We're corrected because
Fun.
you alright?
I didn't know we
Okay, so Lafayette, he was from what country again? Where was he from again?
Oh,
France.
France, yeah.
From France, very good. And he helped the Americans lead because, again, the American Army was one of their disadvantages.
They had less people at the time.
It's an office.
Say that again.
They had less people and untrained.
Less people and
soldiers.
untrained, right? The Americans Army, they were had fewer people and they were untrained, so they brought in somebody like Lafayette from France who would have a little bit more experience fighting battles and a little bit more leadership. We're on number 18, Austin. Okay, so the quote says, "For imposing taxes on us without our consent." What does that quote kind of sound like? Another one quote that we just talked about. For imposing taxes without our consent. What does that sound like, Cameron?
No taxation without representation.
Very good. No taxation without representation. So, what action is being referred to in the excerpt from the Declaration of Independence?
Stand back.
Yeah, so
Correct answer is F, right?
yes.
It's almost the exact same question as you just had on number 15. So the correct answer is the Stamp Act because of the answer choices. It's the only one that's a tax, right? They're saying imposing taxes on us without our consent. Stamp Act was a tax. What did the Stamp Act tax?
Tax cards,
Not
no,
the
not
Stamp
T,
Act, not
not
T,
T, no,
but cards,
dice,
dice,
sugar, if I'm right.
not sugar. That's
Everything.
Townshend Act is what you're. Not that's the Townshend Act. It tax newspapers,
Okay.
playing cards, stamps,
Marriage
dice, marriage documents, wills. Yep, a lot, mostly paper products. Okay, anything you can think of that was paper, it had to have like that stamp on it that said you paid your tax, right? And so, the quartering acts, answer choice G, that's not a tax, right? What was the quartering act?
That's when they can stay in your house.
Very good. They could stay in your house. The intolerable acts, and then that's
They had to keep Boston in its place.
those are the 4 different intolerable acts. Those weren't taxes though. And then the proclamation line of 1763, is that a tax?
No, I couldn't keep
No, that said no settlement where?
Past
West of the Appalachians.
West of the Appalachians. Very good. Okay, so the only answer choice that's a tax is F. 19. What's in the picture, Austin? What?
The Boston Tea Party.
Very good. It's a picture of the Boston Tea Party. Okay, and it's saying which item below explains the dissatisfaction expressed by the actions of the colonists shown in the picture. So it's saying, what explains the dissatisfaction? Why are they unsatisfied? So why were the people in the picture that did the Boston Tea Party, the Sons of Liberty, why were they unsatisfied or dissatisfied?
They were being taxed and there's nothing they could do about it.
Okay, there's a tax on tea. That's what we talked about. What was that act, that tax tea? The Tea Act, okay? But did that act make tea cheaper or more expensive?
It made it cheaper.
It actually made tea cheaper, but why is that still going to upset them? That's what the question's asking.
because they're still taxing it.
No, because the market, people that like sold it.
Oh, yeah.
Came to Boston.
Okay, it went around who? The American
Merchant.
merchants.
Yeah,
Good,
because they would
okay?
take it to.
So what answer choice is that?
That's C.
Answer choice C. It reduced the price of tea, right? We talked about how it made tea cheaper, actually, but it bypassed means that it goes around, it's leaving them out, the American merchants.
I left on.
Number 20.
Yeah.
Many of the protests and demonstrations that followed the Stamp Acts and the Intolerable Acts were examples of what, Augie?
Let me see my paper. What number are we on?
20. Stamp Act and Intolerable Act, how did the people respond?
You want the answer?
You got that one right.
Okay, F, boycotts, right? What's something particular that they're gonna boycott, Noah? What did the Americans boycott and that we talked about?
There's a couple.
You just talked about one.
What is a boycott, Noah?
What they dumped into the harbor.
What's a boycott? What if you boycotted Nike and you said you're no longer gonna wear Nike, what is a boycott?
You know why you don't support it?
Yeah, you're no longer gonna support it, right? So what were the colonists, the Americans no longer gonna support? What were they not gonna buy anymore? Very good. Okay, they were gonna not buy the tea anymore. Okay, that's something that they boycotted. Another thing was the Stamp Act, right? They were saying we're not gonna pay the Stamp Act because why?
Well,
Yes, you're gonna say it because they're not gonna pay.
taxation without it.
Very good. Exactly right. They weren't gonna pay the Stamp Act because they weren't represented. Number 21.
What? Oh, yeah, number 2.
They had no say.
British colonists opposed the Proclamation of 1763 because why? Why did they oppose the Proclamation of 1763, Cameron? Number 21. Why did they oppose that proclamation?
Can you pick someone else?
I got you.
Yeah, Bryson.
I don't know if this is yours, though. I think it's D.
Okay,
Right?
not D. What did the Proclamation of 1763 do? Bryson, you know this. What did the Proclamation of 1763 do? It's right after the French and Indian War. And they say, no settlement, what? Help them out, JT.
It's pretty much no settlement on the west side of the Appalachian Mountains.
Very good. So which answer choice is that?
It's C because they're not getting any westward expansion like they
Good.
wanted.
C. They couldn't expand west. They couldn't go west of the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, even though they needed to get a lot bigger.
Okay. Good. Number 22. In 1787, the U.S. was at a crossroads. Farmers in western Massachusetts had rebelled the year before over property taxes. What was that called? In other words, farmers in western Massachusetts rebelled over
Shays
property
Rebellion.
taxes. Very good, JT. Shays Rebellion. The state struggled to end that rebellion. This discussion led to what?
I think that's what's wrong.
Yeah, bring.
Write the U.S. Constitution.
Write the U.S. Constitution, right? We had that on the review. It said Shays Rebellion directly led to what?
Right.
Shays Rebellion, it was also on the test. It was on number 13. Turn back to number 13. Number 13 and number 22 are a lot alike. 13 says, which of the following directly led to the Constitutional Convention of 1787? What was that, Christian? Remind me. What was number 13? Huh? Number 13. Where'd you get on that?
I got B.
B. Shays Rebellion, right? So Shays Rebellion, we know, led to the Constitutional Convention. So if we already know that information, then we go to number 22. We should know, you guys should be able to get this one easily if you just know your key dates. Because the first date on the question, it says 22, it says in 1787. We know that it's one of our key dates, right? What's the key date of 1787? U.S. Constitution, right? So you know your key dates. You know this. We're talking about 1787. You should automatically know that the answer is J. They wrote the Constitution. But even if, let's say you didn't know that your key dates, if you studied the GIMKIT, you know that Shays Rebellion directly led to the Constitutional Convention. So you know farmers in western Massachusetts rebelled. That sounds like Shays Rebellion. So then they struggled to end that rebellion. That had to have led to the Constitutional Convention. And at the Constitutional Convention, they wrote what? No Constitutional Convention. They wrote what?
U.S. Constitution.
The Constitution, right? So that's J. Alright, 22 is J. See the thought process you have to go through to get the correct answer? Okay. Number 23, last one. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Okay, so it's saying all men are created equal. What is that referring to? Noah. 23. What is all men are created equal? They have certain unalienable rights. What is that saying? What's answer choice?
Oh, the answer is B.
Okay, it's not B. What is if you're created equal and you have unalienable rights? What is that?
C.
C. It's what you have as a result of being human, right? As soon as you're born, it's what your unalienable rights. Those are your rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And like the quote says, that everyone's created equal, right? So you're created equal, and you have those certain rights. Those are the rights you have just for being human. Okay. All right. So, if you guys needed to make corrections because you didn't pass, make sure to turn those back in to the box. Or if you're doing it online, submit it online to me so that I can see it. All the grades, test grades are posted in Schoology, so you can check your grade on your test, know whether you need to do corrections or not. All right.
No.
No.
I mean, or recycle.